My day job is such that I can listen to podcasts while I'm working. And one of the ones I've been listening to a lot lately is Shaped by Dog with Susan Garrett. She said something that was very applicable, I think, which was done is better than perfect. And she also said, in order to improve something, you've got to start with anything. Welcome to this episode of Dog Leads. I'm Steve Bishop, certified dog trainer. If you'd like help implementing anything I talk about today or any of the other episodes, you can email me at bishopsgatetraining@gmail.com. I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a retrospective, my thoughts on how the podcast has gone, things I've been trying to accomplish, and what I have planned for the future. If you've been with the podcast for a little while, you know it was kind of a rough start. I think I went through 4, maybe 6 different editors for audio and video. I had problems with cameras, and there's just a lot of rough patches getting it all put together in a cohesive way. I believe at this point I have all the technical issues sorted out. So I haven't talked to Noni about this yet, but I would at some point like to have her back on just so we can get a clean recording and we can get that information out without the echo and the background problems. Also, Melody, there was a slight issue with the microphone setup, and I think I've figured that one out also. Fortunately, the last couple of interviews, I haven't had any problems with that. But Melody and I talked about having her back on to talk about some other aspects of Unchained Melodies aside from the rescues. The reason I do this, I love learning and I love teaching. And I thought this would be a good way to get information out there. I want to help people improve their relationships with their dogs. And the idea is if you understand the reason for the behavior or what that behavior actually means, then you're better prepared to help your dog when the training is not going the way you are hoping it would go. And so I want to give you that information so that you can address those issues when they do arise, or maybe stop and think, hey, Steve had an episode about that, or hey, maybe Steve could do an episode on that for his podcast, which I'd be more than happy to do. I try to address any questions or suggestions that people give me. I do want to make very clear this should not be considered a substitution for hiring a trainer. Every client, when they come to me with an issue, the first thing I always recommend is get a vet check. Make sure the dog is healthy. There's not some underlying physical problem that needs to be addressed and is causing these behavior issues. And then hire a trainer if you need that extra help. It's not something just basic pet manners like a sit or a down or something like that. So someone can kind of look at the situation and say, hey, this is what I see going on, and we need to address this emotional problem to get the behavior or to stop the behavior, whether it's barking or jumping up or whatever it happens to be. And I'll mention I do have an episode number 6 that talks about how to choose a trainer. I would love for you to come to me. This is something I love doing, is training. So you're more than welcome to get in touch with me, but you can also check out episode 6 and it'll kind of tell you what to look for if you aren't able to come to me. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the name of the podcast. I don't think I've really talked about this. I know I touched on it in one of the interviews. The name Dog Leads, I came up with that when I had the store. I had a newsletter that I put out every month, and I was sitting looking around the store trying to come up with something dog related that was kind of a play on words. And I looked over in the retail section and there were the leashes hanging there, and it's like leashes or dog leads, and it's like, oh, that would work. The idea is, one, it is that play on words, as a dog lead is a leash, but also my hope is the information I give, I will lead you to more information so you can learn more about it yourself if that's something you're interested in. Everything I talk about, I try to give citations or put links to the information where I'm getting it, but it comes down to this, what's common knowledge or what needs to be cited. So someone tells me, I don't know, the sky is blue, I can go and I can look at, atmospheric refraction and sunlight and all these things, and I could cite what that information is, but it's pretty much common knowledge. But at some point I had to learn it, whether it was just by observation or someone, telling me, oh, that's the sky and the sky is blue, and kind of an oversimplification, but hopefully you get what I'm getting at. Um, so not everything I talk about does have citations or a reference to an article or a study or something like that. But if you ever want to know where I get that information, I may not remember exactly where I learned something, but I have lots of articles and peer-reviewed papers that are saved on my computer that I can refer to. This is probably a quarter, maybe a third of all the books I have on dogs, dog behavior, and dog training. So I could probably find the information somewhere. And if I can't, I know enough people in the groups that I'm in and the forums that I'm on. I have a large pool to draw from that I could ask, hey, somebody asked me this question and I'm not finding the answer. What's your take on this, or where can I find more information about it? So I will lead you to any information that you have interest in. I do try to keep the episodes around 15 minutes or less, interviews notwithstanding, obviously. So I may oversimplify a lot of stuff, or I may make broad generalizations. That's more for time constraints. But again, if you ever have a question about something I mentioned or would like me to expand on it, let me know. I say in every episode, if you have any questions or you want me to expand on something, you can contact me at bishopsgatetraining@gmail.com. And that's true. I want to know what your questions are. I want to know what information you would like to have. In the future, I think we have a pretty good format at this point as far as what episodes come out at what times, and me kind of planning those out as we go. So the training tip on the first Sunday of the month and the interview the second Sunday of the month, etc. I have been finding it difficult to get a hold of people, and I'm sure it's the main reason is because they get a lot of requests for information and stuff like that. And the last thing they're worried about is some guy who has a little podcast with a few listeners right now. But if you have any suggestions, or you are affiliated with some type of dog support organization, let's say, and you are interested in being on the podcast, let me know. I am more than happy to come to you, or usually we record here at home, and I'm happy to host you for that also. I would appreciate your help with that. At the same time, any topics you'd like me to cover, I mean, I've got several lined up that I plan to talk about, but I want this to be of interest to people. So if there's something that you would like to hear me talk about, please don't hesitate to let me know. I check my Facebook and the podcast comments and my email constantly, so I will get any request if you have one for a topic or something you'd like me to delve more deeply into. And at the same time, I've talked about this a little bit in not too distant past, but I am trying to build the following. So if you do find these interesting, please leave a like. It helps get the podcast out to other people or raises it on the list of suggestions. And also, if you're not already following, follow the podcast. It gives me a lot more flexibility in the things that I can do when I do post them. So for the video side of it, if you're watching this on YouTube, my wife said the set is kind of boring and there's too much taupe. And I know like this drawing doesn't show up very well in the camera. I do have plans to update the recording space. I don't know what I want to do, something with this white wall here. I also realize I need to do something about the lighting. It's adequate, but it could be better. And I'd like to create an interview space. So if you are watching this on YouTube, somewhere that's a little bit nicer than sitting around our dining room table, which is what I'm doing right now with my interviews that come to the home. So those are some of the things I'd like to do for the podcast in the future. Things I won't do. I'm not one of these Gen Alphas. I'm not going to feign excitement. I mean, you've seen the TikToks and things like that where, they're like, oh, I'm cutting my hair. And so, oh, I can't believe my hair's being cut, but I'm doing it. And I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to overreact to silly stuff. I'm not going to use clickbait. When I was setting up the podcast on YouTube, I was looking for information about how to do that, how to get a following. And one of the things I came across was somebody that said, oh yeah, if you see a picture you like, just take that picture and you only have to change 3 things and the algorithm won't pick it up as being stolen. And I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. I want people to view the podcast on YouTube or go to Podbean or Spotify or the other platforms that I'm on because the information is useful and they find it interesting. Doesn't mean I'm going to sit here and be, I forget the teacher's name in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Bueller. But you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to be that guy either. I want to be engaging, but I'm not going to fall into these traps just to get viewerships, making up controversies and things like that. The information stands on its own merits. So I do have some other projects that I'm working on. This isn't the only thing I do. I would like to have a Spanish version of the podcast. I have spoken Spanish for quite a while, but it's not very good. A friend of mine said the accent's really good, but I talk like a second grader, and I want to be a little bit better than that before I start putting this online in Spanish. I also started laying out, I've had a book in the back of my head for about 15 years now, so I want to get started on that, write my fourth book, and then I have another idea for a children's book, so that would be number 5. So hopefully in the next year I can get those done, and the one is probably going to take that long. It's pretty science heavy for what I'm anticipating, but I'd like to dedicate some time to that. And then I also want to start doing t-shirts. So for example, this one I used to sell. It's one of my drawings. I have some drawings that I need to get scanned and kind of touch them up in Photoshop, but I would like to start selling those, making those available. You can go to my website and follow the projects tab, and it has all the side projects, all the other things that I'm working on besides the training and the podcast. So I invite you to do that and kind of keep up with the progress and see how things are going. And that's really all I have for this 50th episode. I know it's not a big dynamic thing with balloons and fireworks or anything like that, but I just wanted to kind of look back and see how things have gone, what's been changed, and where things are going in the future, and the other things that I have going on. So if you've been with me since the beginning, I really appreciate it. And if this is the first time you're seeing the podcast, I encourage you to like and subscribe and share it with people who might find this interesting also. Thank you for joining me today. If you found today's conversation helpful, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. It truly helps the podcast grow. If you have questions, a topic suggestion, or you want to schedule a private training session, leave a comment or email me at bishopsgatetraining@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here next week.